You're making poor decisions constantly that destroy opportunities, choosing wrong options repeatedly while better ones were available, watching others make smart choices while you make mistakes, regretting decisions immediately after making them, paralyzed by fear of choosing wrong so avoiding decisions entirely, and losing everything achievable because bad decision-making compounds into failed life, while good decisions compound into success. This poor decision-making is systematically destroying your potential by ensuring wrong choices prevent right outcomes, destroying your opportunities by making you choose paths leading nowhere, destroying your confidence by proving repeatedly you cannot choose well, destroying your relationships through poor judgment and choices, and destroying your future by guaranteeing that accumulated bad decisions create life far below your potential, while better decision-making would create extraordinary results. Making better decisions is not genetic gift or mysterious intuition, but learnable systematic process, not about never making mistakes, but about dramatically improving choice quality, and not complex philosophy but practical framework anyone can implement. This audiobook teaches better decision-making through the principles revealing how good decisions are made, the frameworks that eliminate bad options systematically, the practices that improve judgment, the methods for choosing confidently, and the systems making better decisions automatic. Stop making poor choices and start making better decisions. Stop regretting decisions and start choosing confidently. Eliminate bad options systematically. Evaluate choices objectively. Decide based on principles, not emotions, and make dramatically better decisions through commitment, starting now. Chapter 1. Define clear decision criteria before evaluating any options. Defining clear decision criteria before evaluating any options improves choices because predetermined standards prevent emotional reactive decisions. The criteria principle demonstrates that decisions without criteria are emotional, not rational. That defining what matters before evaluating options eliminates bias. That clear criteria enable objective comparison. That predetermined standards prevent manipulation by options. That criteria-first approach dramatically improves decisions, and that evaluating before defining criteria guarantees poor choices. Most people make poor decisions through evaluating options before defining criteria, making emotional reactive choices, not knowing what they actually want, being swayed by appealing but wrong options, lacking clear standards for evaluation, and missing that criteria first is decision-making foundation. Criteria before options prevents bias. Standards enable objectivity. Define first or choose poorly. Research demonstrates that predetermined criteria improve decision quality dramatically. That evaluating before defining criteria introduces severe bias. That clear standards enable objective comparison. That people who define criteria first make measurably better choices. That criteria prevent emotional hijacking of decisions. And that systematic criteria use is hallmark of excellent decision makers. The criteria definition practice involves identifying what actually matters for this specific decision, defining specific measurable standards, establishing minimum requirements, determining deal breakers, creating evaluation framework before seeing any options, and treating criteria as decision foundation. The criteria types include absolute requirements that options must have, weighted factors with relative importance, deal breakers that eliminate options immediately, nice-to-haves that are preferences, not requirements, and treating categorization as clarity, tool enabling efficient evaluation. The premature evaluation danger shows that seeing options before defining criteria biases toward those options. That attractive options manipulate criteria to fit themselves. That evaluating first makes rationalization inevitable. That emotional reactions to options override rational criteria, and that treating evaluation first is guaranteed poor decision-making approach. The criteria clarity requirement means being specific, not vague about standards, making criteria measurable when possible, ensuring criteria reflect actual values and goals, avoiding criteria that sound good but don't actually matter, and treating clarity as objectivity enabler. The values alignment practice involves ensuring criteria reflect true priorities, connecting criteria to long-term goals, avoiding socially desirable but personally irrelevant criteria, making criteria authentic to actual values, and treating alignment as decision quality foundation. The minimum viable criteria show identifying absolute must-haves, establishing floor below which options are unacceptable, using minimums to eliminate quickly, not making criteria so strict nothing qualifies, and treating minimum standards as efficient filter. The weighted criteria system involves assigning importance weights to different factors, scoring options on each weighted criterion, calculating total weighted scores, using quantification for objectivity, and treating weighting as decision clarity tool. The criteria documentation means writing criteria explicitly before evaluating, making criteria visible throughout process, referring back to criteria when evaluating, preventing criteria drift during evaluation, and treating documentation as commitment device. The emotional override prevention shows using predetermined criteria to override emotions, trusting criteria over feelings during evaluation, recognizing when emotions are biasing toward wrong option, maintaining criteria discipline despite attractive options, and treating criteria as protection from poor emotional choices. The criteria examples show that for job decisions, criteria might include salary minimum, commute maximum, growth opportunities, work, culture fit, and specific skill development. That for purchase decisions, criteria include budget limit, required features, quality standards, warranty requirements, and reliability measures. That for relationship decisions, criteria include shared values, communication compatibility, life goal alignment, emotional safety, and mutual respect, and that treating examples as templates for creating own criteria. The criteria refinement involves starting with draft criteria, testing criteria against hypothetical options, adjusting criteria based on testing, ensuring criteria are neither too strict nor too loose, and treating refinement as iterative process. The premature compromise danger shows that defining loose criteria to ensure options qualify defeats purpose. That criteria should reflect actual requirements, not adjusted to available options. That if no options meet criteria, either expand search or accept that good option doesn't currently exist, and that treating compromise as path to regret. The criteria prioritization means identifying which criteria matter most, establishing hierarchy of importance, recognizing that not all criteria are equally important, using prioritization for weighted scoring, and treating prioritization as clarity about values. The implementation requires defining clear specific decision criteria before seeing any options, establishing what matters most for this particular decision, setting minimum requirements and deal breakers explicitly, creating weighted evaluation framework, documenting criteria to prevent drift, evaluating options only after criteria are established, using criteria to override emotional reactions, maintaining criteria discipline throughout entire process, and treating criteria-first approach as fundamental decision-making practice, ensuring objectivity where evaluation first guaranteed emotional bias choices. Criteria before options prevents bias. Standards enable objectivity. Define first or choose poorly. You understand now that predetermined criteria enable objective decisions, that evaluation before criteria guarantees bias, that clear standards prevent emotional manipulation, that criteria first dramatically improves choice quality, and that Chapter 1 provides foundation making rational decisions possible where reactive evaluation made poor emotional choices inevitable. Chapter 2. Eliminate options that fail minimum requirements immediately. Eliminating options that fail minimum requirements immediately simplifies decisions because most options should never be seriously considered. The elimination principle demonstrates that most options are clearly wrong and should be removed fast. That elimination is more important than evaluation. That removing bad options is easier than choosing between good ones. That keeping bad options in consideration wastes time and creates confusion. And that systematic elimination is expert decision-maker hallmark. Most people make poor decisions through considering every option equally, not eliminating clearly wrong choices, wasting time evaluating bad options, keeping too many options in consideration, making choice overwhelming, and missing that elimination dramatically simplifies decisions. Most options are wrong. Eliminate ruthlessly. Remove bad options or drown in choices. Research demonstrates that expert decision-makers eliminate ruthlessly and quickly, that most options fail basic requirements and should be removed immediately, that reducing options to few good ones makes final choice easier, that evaluating bad options wastes cognitive resources, and that people who eliminate systematically make better, faster decisions. The immediate elimination practice involves applying minimum requirements as first filter, removing options, failing any deal-breaker instantly, eliminating before detailed evaluation, being ruthless about cutting bad options, and treating elimination as primary decision tool. The deal-breaker application means establishing absolute requirements, immediately removing options, lacking deal-breakers, not compromising on true requirements, using deal-breakers as efficient filter, and treating deal-breakers as non-negotiable elimination criteria. The fast elimination benefits shows that removing bad options quickly saves time and mental energy, that reducing option set makes comparison easier, that eliminating prevents analysis paralysis, that fewer options enable deeper evaluation of remaining, and that treating elimination as efficiency multiplier. The consideration threshold setting involves requiring options to meet minimum standard for consideration, not wasting time on below threshold options, raising threshold to reduce option set, using threshold as automatic filter, and treating threshold as decision simplification tool. The option reduction target shows aiming to reduce options to 3 to 5 finalists, maximum, eliminating until remaining options are all genuinely viable, not keeping weak options for false sense of thoroughness, treating small finalist set as decision enabler, and recognizing that too many options prevent good decisions. The elimination speed principle means eliminating quickly based on clear criteria, not belaboring elimination decisions, trusting criteria for fast removal, avoiding analysis paralysis in elimination phase, and treating elimination speed as advantage, not weakness. The no-compromise enforcement involves not keeping options that fail requirements hoping they'll work somehow, refusing to compromise on deal-breakers, eliminating even attractive options, missing requirements, maintaining standards despite option scarcity, and treating compromise as path to regret. The elimination documentation shows noting why options were eliminated, learning from elimination patterns, refining criteria based on elimination insights, using documentation for future decisions, and treating tracking as learning tool. The option resurrection resistance means not bringing back eliminated options, trusting elimination decisions, avoiding second-guessing removal, maintaining eliminated status, and treating elimination as commitment. The scarcity trap awareness involves recognizing that option scarcity doesn't justify keeping bad options, understanding that no good option is better than choosing bad option, accepting that sometimes good options don't exist currently, maintaining standards regardless of availability, and treating scarcity as information, not excuse to compromise. The elimination confidence building shows trusting that eliminating is correct decision, believing that removed options truly didn't meet requirements, not feeling guilty about eliminating, recognizing that keeping bad options is mistake, and treating elimination confidence as decision skill. The efficient elimination process involves first pass removing obvious failures, second pass applying stricter criteria, final pass leaving only strongest finalists, moving quickly through passes, and treating efficiency as elimination goal. The common elimination mistakes show keeping options out of politeness, maintaining options to appear thorough, not eliminating because deciding is hard, keeping backup options unnecessarily, and treating these as decision quality killers. The elimination versus evaluation distinction means understanding that elimination requires only checking minimum requirements, that evaluation involves detailed comparison, that elimination should be fast and ruthless, that evaluation should be careful and thorough, and that treating these as separate phases improves decisions. The too many options problem shows that considering 10 options is far worse than considering 3, that large option sets create analysis paralysis, that comparison difficulty increases exponentially with options, that decision quality actually decreases with too many options, and that treating elimination as solution to too many options problem. The implementation requires applying minimum requirements to all options immediately, eliminating options failing any deal breaker instantly without detailed evaluation, being ruthlessly efficient about removing clearly wrong choices, reducing option set to small number of genuinely viable finalists, not compromising on true requirements regardless of option scarcity, moving quickly through elimination phase, documenting elimination reasoning, and treating systematic elimination as fundamental. Decision practice simplifying choices where keeping all options created overwhelming complexity. Preventing good decisions. Most options are wrong. Eliminate ruthlessly. Remove bad options or drown in choices. You understand now that most options should never be seriously considered, that elimination is more important than evaluation, that ruthless cutting simplifies decisions dramatically, that maintaining standards despite scarcity is essential, and that Chapter 2 enables efficient decision-making, making clear choices possible where considering everything made decisions overwhelming. Chapter 3. Evaluate remaining options objectively using your criteria. Evaluating remaining options objectively using your predefined criteria enables rational comparison, because emotion-free systematic evaluation reveals best choice. The objective evaluation principle demonstrates that systematic criteria-based evaluation is superior to gut feelings, that scoring options quantitatively enables objectivity, that comparing options directly on each criterion reveals differences, that documentation prevents memory bias, and that objective evaluation dramatically improves decision quality. Most people make poor decisions through evaluating options emotionally, not systematically, relying on gut feelings instead of criteria, not comparing options directly on each factor, letting bias influence evaluation, and missing that objective systematic evaluation is decision quality multiplier. Emotion creates bias. Systematic evaluation reveals truth. Score objectively or choose wrong. Research demonstrates that systematic evaluation improves decision outcomes significantly, that scoring options on criteria enables better comparison, that documented evaluation prevents cognitive biases, that objective evaluation reveals best choice, that gut feeling misses, and that people who evaluate systematically make measurably better decisions. The systematic evaluation practice involves scoring each remaining option on every criterion, using consistent rating scale, documenting scores and reasoning, comparing options directly, not in isolation, and treating systematic approach as bias prevention. The scoring systems show using numerical ratings for each criterion, applying same scale to all options consistently, weighting scores by importance, calculating total weighted scores, and treating quantification as objectivity tool. The direct comparison method means evaluating options side by side on each criterion, noting specific differences between options, comparing on one criterion at a time, avoiding holistic impressions until systematic evaluation complete, and treating direct comparison as clarity creator. The bias awareness practice involves recognizing common decision biases, watching for emotional preference influencing scores, catching rationalization of preferred option, maintaining objectivity despite attractions, and treating bias awareness as objectivity protector. The documentation discipline shows writing evaluation scores and reasoning, making evaluation visible and reviewable, preventing memory distortion, enabling return to evaluation later, and treating documentation as bias prevention tool. The criteria adherence means actually using predefined criteria, not introducing new factors, not changing criteria to favor preferred option, sticking to what matters, avoiding criteria drift during evaluation, and treating adherence as integrity requirement. The devil's advocate practice involves arguing against preferred option, identifying weaknesses in favorites, considering contrary evidence, challenging own preferences, and treating challenge as objectivity tool. The second opinion consideration shows getting outside perspective on evaluation, having others score using same criteria, comparing independent evaluations, learning from disagreements, and treating outside input as bias correction. The evaluation review means reviewing scores for consistency, checking for obvious bias, ensuring criteria were applied equally, reconsidering suspicious patterns, and treating review as quality control. The common evaluation biases include confirmation bias, seeing what confirms preferences, halo effect, letting one good feature influence all ratings, recency bias, overweighting recent information, anchoring bias, being influenced by first option seen, and treating bias recognition as prevention method. The rating scale consistency shows using same scale meaning across all options, ensuring 7 out of 10 means same thing for each option, applying ratings objectively, not relatively, maintaining scale discipline, and treating consistency as fairness requirement. The evaluation documentation format involves creating table with options as columns and criteria as rows, scoring each option on each criterion in cells, adding weights to criteria, calculating weighted totals, and treating format as clarity and objectivity tool. The qualitative versus quantitative balance means using numbers for objectivity while noting qualitative observations, not losing important nuances in pure quantification, documenting reasoning behind scores, combining systematic scoring with contextual notes, and treating balance as comprehensive evaluation. The option, strengths and weaknesses analysis shows identifying what each option does best, recognizing where each option is weak, comparing strengths directly, evaluating whether weaknesses are acceptable, and treating analysis as decision clarity tool. The score interpretation involves understanding that highest total score indicates best option, recognizing when scores are very close, suggesting similar quality, identifying whether one criterion dominates decision, evaluating whether score differences are meaningful, and treating interpretation as decision preparation. The evaluation completion recognition means knowing when evaluation is thorough enough, avoiding perpetual evaluation, recognizing diminishing returns of additional evaluation, accepting that perfect information is impossible, and treating completion as moving to decision. The implementation requires scoring each remaining option systematically on every predefined criterion, using consistent rating scales across all options, documenting scores and detailed reasoning, comparing options directly on each specific factor, maintaining objectivity by watching for bias, adhering strictly to predefined criteria, practicing devil's advocate against preferences, considering outside perspectives, reviewing evaluation for consistency, and treating objective systematic evaluation as fundamental practice, revealing best choice where emotional evaluation guaranteed biased poor decisions. Emotion creates bias. Systematic evaluation reveals truth. Score objectively or choose wrong. You understand now that systematic evaluation enables rational comparison, that scoring prevents emotional bias, that documentation enables objectivity, that direct comparison reveals true differences, and that Chapter 3 provides method making rational choice possible where emotional evaluation made biased decisions inevitable. Chapter 4. Make decision based on evaluation, not emotions or pressure making. Decision based on evaluation, not emotions or pressure, ensures rational choice. Because predetermined systematic process prevents reactive poor decisions, the rational decision principle demonstrates that decision should follow from evaluation, not override it. That trusting systematic process beats trusting gut, that emotions and pressure create poor decisions, that following evaluation eliminates regret, and that decision discipline is excellent decision-maker trait. Most people make poor decisions through overriding evaluation with emotion at decision moment, letting external pressure influence final choice, not trusting their systematic process, making reactive emotional decisions despite careful evaluation, and missing that decision must follow evaluation or process was pointless. Evaluation reveals best choice. Emotions create regret. Trust, process, or choose wrong. Research demonstrates that following systematic evaluation produces better outcomes than gut feelings. That emotional override of rational analysis creates regret. That external pressure causes poor decisions. That people who trust their process make better choices. And that decision discipline separates excellent from poor decision makers. The evaluation decision alignment means making choice that evaluation indicates is best, trusting systematic process over feelings, following scores and analysis, not overriding evaluation without excellent reason, and treating alignment as process integrity. The emotional override recognition involves noticing when wanting to choose against evaluation, identifying emotional reasons for override desire, questioning whether emotions provide valid information, recognizing rationalization, and treating override impulse as warning sign. The pressure resistance practice shows making decision based on evaluation despite external pressure, not letting others rush decision, maintaining independence from influence, protecting decision from manipulation, and treating pressure resistance as integrity requirement. The gut feeling reframe means understanding gut feelings as emotional reactions, not wisdom. Recognizing intuition can be biased, trusting systematic process over intuition, using gut as data point, not decision maker, and treating feelings as input, not conclusion. The decision commitment involves actually making the decision. Evaluation indicates committing fully to choice, not second-guessing after systematic process, trusting that process was thorough, and treating commitment as discipline. The override criteria shows establishing when overriding evaluation might be appropriate, requiring extraordinary reason to override, documenting override reasoning, learning from overrides, and treating override as rare exception, not rule. The confidence building means trusting that systematic process produces good decisions, believing in evaluation-based choices, developing confidence in methodology, reducing decision anxiety through process trust, and treating confidence as process benefit. The regret prevention shows that following evaluation eliminates most regret, trusting that systematic choice was best available, not torturing yourself with what-ifs, accepting that process was sound, and treating following process as regret insurance. The decision execution requires acting on decision promptly after making it, not continuing to deliberate after choice, moving to implementation, treating decision as commitment to act, and recognizing that execution matters as much as decision. The common override justifications include claiming gut feeling knows something evaluation missed, believing this situation is special exception, thinking emotions provide valid information evaluation doesn't, feeling that highest scored option just doesn't feel right, and treating these as rationalization, not valid reasons. The pressure sources recognition involves identifying who is pressuring decision, understanding their motivations for pressure, recognizing that their interests may not align with yours, maintaining decision independence, and treating pressure awareness as protection. The decision anxiety management shows accepting that decisions involve uncertainty, recognizing that systematic process is best available method, understanding that perfect certainty is impossible, trusting process despite anxiety, and treating anxiety as normal, not indicator of wrong choice. The post-decision dissonance awareness means understanding that chosen option will look worse and rejected options better after decision, recognizing this as psychological phenomenon, not decision error, maintaining commitment despite dissonance, not second-guessing based on normal post-decision feelings, and treating dissonance as expected, not concerning. The decision speed balance involves not rushing decision before evaluation complete, also not delaying decision after evaluation finished, recognizing when evaluation is sufficient, making decision promptly once ready, and treating timing as balance between thoroughness and decisiveness. The irreversible decision caution shows that truly irreversible decisions deserve extra care, that following evaluation is even more important for irreversible choices, that overriding evaluation on irreversible decision is especially dangerous, and that treating irreversibility as reason for extra process trust, not override. The reversible decision confidence means that most decisions can be changed if wrong, that reversibility reduces decision stakes, that following evaluation with confidence is appropriate for reversible choices, and that treating reversibility as permission to trust process. The implementation requires making final decision that evaluation clearly indicates is best, trusting systematic process over emotional reactions, resisting external pressure to choose differently, following scores and analysis without override, committing fully to evaluation-based choice, acting on decision promptly, not second-guessing systematic process, and treating decision discipline as fundamental practice, ensuring rational choices where emotional override or pressure compliance guaranteed poor decisions and regret. Evaluation reveals best choice, emotions create regret, trust, process, or choose wrong. You understand now that decision must follow evaluation, that emotional override creates poor choices, that pressure causes bad decisions, that trusting process eliminates regret, and that Chapter 4 enables rational choice, making good decisions possible, where emotional override made regrettable choices inevitable. Chapter 5. Review decision results, learning and improving your process. Reviewing decision results to learn and improve your process creates continuous improvement, because systematic learning from outcomes makes future decisions better. The review principle demonstrates that reviewing decisions is how decision-making improves, that learning from both good and bad outcomes refines process, that systematic review prevents repeating mistakes, that tracking decision quality over time reveals patterns, and that continuous improvement mindset separates excellent from average decision makers. Most people never improve decision-making through not reviewing past decisions, not learning from outcomes, repeating same mistakes, not tracking decision quality, and missing that systematic review creates decision-making mastery. Review creates improvement. Learning refines process. Review systematically or repeat mistakes. Research demonstrates that reviewing decisions dramatically improves future choice quality, that learning from outcomes refines decision criteria, that tracking decisions reveals blind spots and biases, that people who review systematically become excellent decision makers, and that continuous improvement through review is decision-making skill builder. The outcome review practice involves evaluating decision outcomes after sufficient time, comparing results to expectations, identifying what worked and what didn't, learning from both successes and failures, and treating review as learning opportunity. The process evaluation means reviewing how decision was made, not just outcome, identifying what process steps helped, recognizing where process could improve, evaluating criteria quality, and treating process review as refinement tool. The pattern recognition shows identifying recurring mistakes across decisions, recognizing successful decision patterns, noting which criteria predict good outcomes, observing where bias consistently appears, and treating patterns as learning accelerator. The criteria refinement involves updating decision criteria based on learnings, adding criteria that matter and were missed, removing criteria that don't predict outcomes, adjusting criterion weights, and treating refinement as process evolution. The bias identification means recognizing which biases affected this decision, noting where emotions overrode logic, identifying external pressure influence, catching rationalization, and treating identification as future bias prevention. The documentation discipline shows recording decisions and reasoning, tracking outcomes systematically, noting lessons learned, creating decision journal, and treating documentation as learning foundation. The success analysis involves understanding why good decisions worked, identifying what criteria were most important, recognizing what process elements enabled success, learning from wins not just losses, and treating success as teacher. The failure analysis shows examining why bad decisions failed, identifying where process broke down, recognizing what criteria were wrong or missing, learning from mistakes without self-blame, and treating failure as valuable data. The systematic improvement means using review insights to refine process, making specific changes based on learnings, implementing improvements immediately, measuring decision quality over time, and treating improvement as continuous practice. The review timing consideration involves reviewing soon enough to remember details, waiting long enough to see actual outcomes, balancing recency and results visibility, scheduling regular review sessions, and treating timing as review effectiveness factor. The decision journal practice shows maintaining written record of decisions, documenting criteria and evaluation, recording final choice and reasoning, noting outcomes when available, and treating journal as learning tool and pattern revealer. The outcome attribution care means recognizing that good outcomes don't always mean good decisions, understanding that bad outcomes don't always indicate bad decisions, separating decision quality from outcome luck, evaluating decision based on information available at decision time, and treating attribution accuracy as learning enabler. The feedback loop creation involves using review insights to improve next decisions, implementing learned improvements immediately, testing refined criteria on new decisions, measuring whether changes improve outcomes, and treating feedback as continuous improvement engine. The long-term tracking benefit shows that tracking decisions over months and years reveals deep patterns, that long-term data identifies consistent biases, that measuring decision quality trajectory shows improvement, that long-term perspective enables major refinements, and treating long-term tracking as mastery path. The learning from others practice means reviewing decisions made by excellent decision makers, understanding their criteria and processes, identifying what makes their decisions superior, adapting their methods to your context, and treating others' decisions as learning resources. The meta-review practice involves periodically reviewing your review process itself, evaluating whether reviews are producing learning, assessing whether improvements are being implemented, measuring decision quality improvement over time, and treating meta-review as process refinement tool. The implementation requires reviewing decision outcomes after sufficient time has passed, evaluating both results and decision-making process used, identifying patterns across multiple decisions, refining criteria and process based on learnings, documenting decisions and outcomes systematically, analyzing both successes and failures for lessons, implementing improvements to decision-making process immediately, tracking decision quality over time, and treating continuous review and improvement as fundamental practice, creating decision-making mastery where never reviewing past choices guaranteed repeating mistakes and preventing improvement, making better decisions possible through systematic learning. You have learned how to make better decisions. Define clear decision criteria before evaluating any options. Eliminate options that fail minimum requirements immediately. Evaluate remaining options objectively using your criteria. Make decision based on evaluation, not emotions or pressure. Review decision results, learning and improving your process. What matters now is implementing systematic decision-making starting immediately. 5. Implementation priorities. Define criteria before seeing options. Eliminate bad choices ruthlessly. Score options systematically. Trust evaluation over emotion. Review decisions to improve. Execute these consistently. Make dramatically better choices and transform decision quality. Stop making poor choices and start making better decisions. Stop regretting decisions and start choosing confidently. Eliminate bad options systematically. Evaluate choices objectively. Decide based on principles, not emotions, and make dramatically better decisions through commitment starting now.